let's make a meltdown in my Pokemon Crystal walkthrough. Hey guys, I'm DeoGenZ. Today we're taking on the gym in Mahogany Town. It's an ice-type gym, if you couldn't tell by the iced-over floors, and the leader is Pryce. But before we get to the big boss kahuna, we gotta take out his snowboard underlings, like Ronald and his Seal. Seal. Seal was a very goofy Pokemon, but I gotta hand it to it. It has an awesome evolution. Dewgong is graceful, and probably is hard to beat. I think I'll have to do a EV training set on Dewgong for the next week. Of course, I'm creating this when you guys are not hearing it directly, so Dewgong was probably already an EV trained Pokemon of the week by the time you're watching this. So you can just check my website, which is on the bottom of the screen, so I don't even have to waste time talking about it. That's the beauty of this new border. For this gym, I actually recommend going with more or less electric-type Pokemon. You're going to see why in a short while. I mean, you're already kind of getting the picture here. Seal is, yes, an Ice-type Pokemon, and Ice-types are weak to fire, but it also is Dual-type with Water. And Water resists fire like a motherfucker. So, those Electrodes that we defeated back in the past walkthrough episode definitely might be advantageous to add to your team. Not only because it's the fastest Pokemon in the Johto region. Well, actually, I wonder if it's faster than Suicune. I should double check that. I'll ask you commenters to make it simple. This way, the answer comes to me from the ether, and I really like when that happens. So, tell me, Suicune or Electrode faster? As I recall, I believe it was Electrode that is the fastest, but it also is an electric type. That's the point. And if you can get it to have a strong enough electric type move, like Chew has here, with Thundershock, let's see how much this does. See, it's super effective, but more or less, ooh, thankfully, paralyzed, nice. More or less you want to be hitting all the opponents in this gym with Thunderbolt, if you have the option. Thundershock, it'll do, and it's going to do, definitely for my Pichu, because I have hopes of evolving it all the way up into a Raichu. Here's the cool thing, guys. I've already received a Thunderstone from Dana Lass. Yeah, that annoying bitch who always calls us. She actually did fork over a Thunderstone once. So it is actually a worthwhile call to make, a worthwhile number to register into your phone book. I don't think that you could take people off of your phone. Well, actually, yes, you can. Never mind. You can drop people from your phone list. It was you can't not accept their call. That's what the difference was. I was going to say, wait a sec. How is it then that you got other people registered? Because the way that Crystal worked back in the day, or just now, of course, is it gave you a limit to how many people you could have on your list. So unlike the remakes, where I believe it lets you store all the phone numbers in Johto and Kanto, which is really annoying, I wouldn't recommend doing it, because you'll have people calling you every 5 seconds for nothing, telling you that, I saw a Rattata today, but it just got away. Anyway, have a good shirt. I'll talk to you later. And it never yields items, or sometimes battles, but really it's not worth it. But yes, you can only have a certain amount, and you have to rotate numbers for certain things. For example, there was a guy on the bridge going towards Union Cave. If you talk to him, I believe his name is Ralph the Fisherman. I only know this because I've talked to him so many times, and I do have his number in the other game. He tells you when there are Pokemon outbreaks, swarming Pokemon, essentially. And swarming Pokemon, they don't normally appear in the area, but they're rare types like Quillfish. Not that Quillfish is a type, but they're rare Pokemon in general that you don't see everywhere else. And it's a great way to add some variety to your team by talking to these people and finding out when the good Pokemon come around. Of course, you gotta know which person does which, who does what, and if you guys request it enough, if I see enough comments saying that they would dig that, I could make a video telling you which each trainer, what each trainer will give you, if they give you anything, or if they'll battle you, or if they'll just talk you up for nothing. I could make a video like that separately. Let me know if I see enough comments. I'll do it. If not, no way. That's pretty much my policy. If there is a demand for it, then definitely I'll make the videos. But if not, that's a little pointless for both of us because you won't watch it, and I just wasted time when I could have been making some walkthroughs that you would watch. My hopes are that for this gym, Pichu does evolve. I think there's enough water types in here for that to happen, but we'll see. Something important about Pichu that you have to keep in mind is that it evolves through friendship. And if you want to double check to check how friendly you are towards any Pokemon for that matter, not just Pichu, but if you've got one like Togepi who you're trying to also raise through happiness into a Togetic, you can go to Goldenrod City, or just go back to my Goldenrod episode and I talk about it there, because that's crucial into getting Pichu into a Pikachu. Otherwise, it could be at level 50, and still a Pichu, if it still hates me. So that's really important. And one of the greatest ways to get your Pokemon to like you is just using it in battle. A lot of people think that, oh great, now I have to wait every day until the hair cutter comes back. Now I gotta go get massages from Daisy, Gary's sister, and Kanto, which of course isn't for a while. But, you know, if you're evolving Pokemon at that stage for happiness, that's also a method of raising it. But everybody moans and groans thinking that it's so tough. Really, all you have to do is engage it into many battles. And it doesn't even have to be important battles either. That's another mistake that I made early on in training when I was in my original cartridge of Crystal, trying to get an Umbreon for myself. I thought that I could only attack trainers. Well, that's not the case. If you defeat any Pokemon, even level 5 for that matter, it makes their happiness grow exponentially. And that is great if you want to get your Pokemon quickly to the next evolved stage and you don't want to mess around risking its happiness level. Because as its happiness can go up, it also can go down. Things that make it go down are serving it up some nasty roots and potions from the herb specialist, which also lives, ironically enough, in the basement of Goldenrod City. It's funny how Goldenrod is like the central point in Johto for happiness alteration. Whether you want to make your Pokemon hate you or love you, take them to the hair cutter, they'll love you. Take them to the herb shop, they'll despise you. You can do it all at Goldenrod. And then check how they actually feel about you within that town. It's kind of funny, I never realized how they did that, but looking back, it's a smart programmed move. That is a great thing for people to take in mind if you are a game programmer, to make hubs for certain aspects of the game. There are certain parts in this game, certain towns like Olivine City, that are optimal for experience gain. But other towns like Cianwood City doesn't have really much to offer, except maybe a shuckle from that guy, which is good in itself, and gift Pokemon in towns are equally as enjoyable as having a good mechanic in a town. But that's something to pay attention to make sure that all the towns or all the ports in your game, they all coincide with one another. Where are you skiing to? I see no mountains around here. I can almost understand if you've got a snowboard, but skis? No, actually I can't really understand if you have a snowboard. It's not an ice board, it's a snowboard. And there we go again, Shelder. I don't think we've seen purely one ice type. I don't even know if Shelder is an ice type at this point. I think it's only water type, but it evolves into Cloyster, then gaining the dual type of ice. Of course, I could be completely wrong. I've been known to do that all the time. So, take it at face value, check the comment section. They're sometimes more helpful than the walkthrough. That's awful to say, but sometimes it is a great assist. Oftentimes. That's why I appreciate anybody who comments, so long as it's not a troll. I mentioned that, though, in a past episode, that I do take into consideration what trolls say, because although what they're saying usually comes out of just liquid hate that's built up inside of them for some other reason completely unrelated to my content, it's just something in their life and they're using my content as an avenue to get it all out, I still have to take it in because, you know, on some level, what they might say could have something to do with improving my content. So, even from trolls, you can gain some constructive criticism, so long as you know how to dissect it all and separate the rage from the actual points. That's no excuse for trolls, and trolls will be banned, so there's a forewarning for anybody who is like, oh, he's saying trolling's fun. Let's do it to every one of his videos. He actually listens to that. Nope, I don't. You get banned. You get the troll ban. Oh man, it was funny. Speaking about troll faces, the other day I was driving out. Well, I wasn't driving because I don't have a license. I chose that. I'm 19 and I don't have a license because I chose that. Don't want the debt, and I think it's a lot better for the environment anyway. I can walk and bike places. Anyway, yes, so I was being driven out of the parking lot of my community college the other day, and I saw this guy who was walking up to the building with the most gratuitous-looking kind of troll face you could ever imagine on a real person. Because the funny thing about troll face is that, if you don't know what troll face is, of course, give it a Google image search and you'll see in a second. But the funny thing about that troll face is that it has so many wrinkles and so many expression lines that it's just ridiculous. And that's also very much like the Awesome series too. If you ever want to type that in, just type in Awesome Reach, Awesome whatever, Awesome series in general. It's awesome. But when they animate that, they always have humongous expression lines, just crazy things that could never occur in an actual physical human body because that's just way too much face contortion. But this guy walking towards the building that I was driving away from, he had a rage troll face on. My goodness, was his head wrinkled and his whole face contorted into a mass of anger. I don't know what his problem was, but he was looking to kill someone. I don't know. I was glad that I was driving away from the college, hoping that that guy wasn't about to go postal. But that's just a funny troll face story of realism that sometimes you don't often get the pleasure to see. But if you do enough people watching like I do, that's one of my hobbies, people watching, you will observe them eventually. Yeah, let's paralyze your ass. For being an annoying defensive wall. Cloister was one of the best walls before I knew what a wall was. And if you don't know what a wall is, and you hear me talking these terms of EV training and metagame training, I recommend checking out my website's EV training section. Because not only do I give you a written explanation of what EV training is, and even give you a little bit of a historical background of it all, of how the mechanics evolved from generation to generation, but there's also my helpful video playlist that's easily accessible in that section. You don't have to search my cluttered up YouTube channel for. It's one thing about YouTube that I think could use some changing is how much control you have over what appears where. Basically like playlists and other things, but that's the main reason I got a website really, is so I could do that all, organize all my stuff for you, and also give you even more additional data. So if you're interested in EV training, effort value training, and it's really something to check out if you're playing any modern Pokemon game, check it out. It's interesting. Check it out, definitely. It is fun to do. It is really a bond builder between you and your digital character, because often you just raise these guys up for a level. You don't even think twice about, wow, the Pokemon they defeat actually could influence what abilities they have later on? That's crazy. That's way too much forethought for no information given, which effort value training is essentially invisibility stat training. It's hidden stats that are programmed into the game that you don't get to see as the player. But they're definitely there, and they certainly influence your game a great deal. So any die-hard Pokemon fans would certainly relish the idea of being the best EV trainer around, but that's also hard to do because when you start to get into the complexities of it all, you notice that it's a lot based on luck, who your opponent is, what Pokemon they have, but most of it is built on strategy and balance of the team you create. So, cool stuff. Although EV training didn't really do anything in this game. It didn't even come around till 3rd gen. So thankfully we only really have to worry about having a balanced team of different types, having high-level Pokemon, and also evolutions, because evolution is key. It's so funny looking back at my own walkthrough and seeing some of the things that I've changed in it, like the idea that I was going to keep Cyndaquil the whole game. I was kind of skeptical myself when I first said that, but I just wanted to see how long I could keep Cyndaquil till. It was my best buddy back in Johto Journeys when I first came to this region. Oh, and finally, a pure ice Pokemon, Swinub. I've been facing dual-type water-ice for this whole walkthrough. Or for this whole episode, at least. And I don't even know if it's truly an ice only. It could be ice/ground. But it also could only get that ice/ground double stat or double type when it evolves into Piloswine. Again, confirm that for me, guys, because pretty sure that it's only an ice type, but it could be also ice and ground. Yeah, the way I could easily tell that is if I just brought my Prince Dozo. King Dozo is in my metagame EV cartridge for battling people. The Prince is his offspring into the walkthrough without even having to do any breeding. It's cross-generational offspring, breeding back in time. Very strange. Can't even explain it, so I won't. Okay, we've versed you already. Now we need to actually get to Pryce. Let's see. I always get mixed up on these ice puzzles, I tell you. I wish they would let you have a bag of sand or something to throw down on the floor. There we go. Okay, so you just go into that other square diagonal from me, down, over, and up, and then over again to the right, and you will face Pryce, who has suffered much in his life.
Since I'm your elder, let me show you what I mean. I've been with Pokemon since before you were born. I do not lose easily. Hey, Pryce, the Winter Trainer. I'll demonstrate my power.
And it's time to verse Pryce with the heart of an icy waterfall. He really looks hardcore in that sprite. Holy shit. He's got, like, darkened eyes and a crotchety old man cane, like he's gonna whack you over the head if you lose. Jeez. Pryce was pretty not nice back in the day. I recall him being on the anime a lot more of a kind of cheery old person, but he certainly doesn't look it in his sprite here. Alright, so once more, I do recommend having an electric type with you, but a strong fire type would be good to have at this point, because as you can see on the sidebar there, he does have a Piloswine. And if you don't have a fire type, but you do have a water type, never fear, because Piloswine is partially a ground type, and if you knock it out with a powerful Surf or even Hydro Pump will definitely get it out in one hit KO, so long as your Pokemon's leveled up enough. But Surf should take care of it if you don't have sufficient firepower on your team, but an electric type is semi-necessary. At least in my opinion, I'm thinking that you're going to have a bit of a tougher time than most if you choose to omit your electric Pokemon. You say, nah, I'll just leave my electric type at home, keep him plugged into the outlet so he charges up for a next battle. There won't be a next battle if you don't bring him along for this Pryce one, so keep that in mind. Damn. Only problem with Chew is, since he's unevolved, he takes hits not well. But he'll still get experience points for it, and that's what matters. Hopefully we've built up our bond long enough with Chew. I don't know. That's one of the annoying things about hidden mechanics like friendship and EV training, because while EV training is almost kind of cooler or more interesting because it is a hidden mechanic, it's also very annoying because why can't everybody know that this mechanic exists and this is something that you can play with in the game? I think that they did it purposefully, though, because if they had that many different variables right out front in the player's face, you got to keep in mind every kind of age group is playing this, from me, 19-year-old, to 10-year-olds, who may not be too interested in doing super math problems, or it's not even super math, but doing super calculations of RPGs when they're just getting into gaming. I know I sure as hell didn't care about that when I was 10, and I think that's what the developers have in mind with that being a hidden mechanic. If they just berated you and barraged you with all these different numbers that you would have to figure in, like, oh man, how many EV training points do I get for defeating a dugong? It would take encyclopedias worth of game file space to do, and it would just make the game less desirable, because it wouldn't be that hard-hitting, fast-action kind of Pokemon RPG that people love. It's not that Pokemon is a action-y type game, I'm not saying that, but on the scale of RPGs, especially when it comes to JRPGs, Pokemon is a pretty good-paced game. It doesn't really snag up anywhere unless you're kind of lost, which is why you have YouTube and Google, because it's free walkthroughs, like mine. So, if you get snagged up, it's a little bit of a stop, but really, it keeps a steady pace, and it's programmed very well so that you get experience points enough for even a team of 3. That's often what I did with my games when I was just a Poke noob, for a real Poke noob, not even like I see myself today, but when I would only raise half of a team, and then have the other 3 just be there for HMs, basically HM slaves, so I could get through the environment with strength and rock smash and surf, whatever else I needed. I would have pretty much token Pokemon sitting there. I wouldn't bother training it, and now I've learned the error of my ways. The thing is, though, it's certainly harder to train a competent team of 6 members than it is 3. You can get through the game in a blazing speed if you choose Cyndaquil as your starter and then just train 3 tough Pokemon that counterbalance each other well. So long as they have a good variety of moves to launch at people, it's not going to be a problem. And you most likely will get through the game faster than like how I'm going through it now, raising all 6 of my members. But you do miss out. You miss out on the training experience, and that's a lot of fun. It's only kind of less fun when it's not trainers that you're fighting against, but wild Pokemon. Of course, it's only something I can do in the emulator where I speed it up, but in the cartridge, I really don't think I would be training my Pokemon for days on end with wild types, but unfortunately, since there's no Versus Seeker in this game, that's what you had to do. Piloswine! It's so funny how when it lifts its head up, it's got these little tiny dot eyes, very similar to Ditto. But I think that a Piloswine would be more affectionate than a blob of Ditto. Ugh. Ditto is the breeding queen king of the Pokemon world, and it's just a pile of goo. That's so bad. Now let's see, I'm not sure. I guess, oh okay, never mind. I was gonna say, yeah, that was an idiotic move. I don't think that Steel is effective against ground types, but Derpfish, it is effective against ice types. That's something I forgot to mention. Rock types, ice types, fire types, those are the types that are effective against the ice Pokemon. I guess I kind of forgot to mention that because up until now, we were mainly focusing on fighting Pokemon that also had the water type, dual type with them, so if you came up against them with rock, it wouldn't be advantageous. It wouldn't be good at all. But steel type resists water pretty well, and thrashing through them with steel, if you've got a Steelix, well, that wouldn't work if you had a Steelix because it's partially ground and then it's affected by water. But if you had like a Scizor or something like that, it would tear through this gym. But I don't think you'd have a Scizor, at least by... What?! Chew is evolving! It's so adorable! I love this sprite of Pikachu. It is my hands-down favorite sprite that I've ever seen of Pikachu. It's just so freaking cute. Awesome. Now our Chew has evolved into a Pikachu. And in the next episode, it will evolve into a Raichu. For now, let's get our badge and also get our free TM that we always get. Oh, and good, now we can use that Whirlpool HM Lance gave us as well. But, as I was saying before, Chew excitedly evolved. I don't think you'd have a Scizor by this point, at least not legitimately, by your own game, unless you transferred it in from your other game, because Metal Coat is not found until after you beat the Elite Four. It sucks, but that's the case. So you don't really get to play with any Steel types, unless you catch a Magnemite, I guess. Yeah, you don't really get to mess around with them all too much until after the Elite Four. Winning trainers, DeoGenZ. Very nice not to see my rival there. I am the only one. The one who is the trainer defeating Pryce. DeoGenZ, how are things going? I called because something weird is happening with the radio broadcasts. They were talking about Team Rocket. DeoGenZ, do you know anything about it? Team Rocket. Yeah, I know something about it, Professor. And in the next episode, we're going to check out the radio tower.